Today is Thursday, February 29th, and this is William Michael of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy. One skill that I have succeeded in developing through the years is the ability to write essays. I can consistently write quality essays, and I really believe that it's because I have figured out a method for doing so. And it's a method that I like to teach my older students, and I'd like to share for anyone who's interested in a quick talk. An essay is really a summary of something. It's a relatively short writing exercise, and normally they're used in academic contexts. They're normally expository or informative. And the real value of an essay is its succinctness. What really makes for a great essay is that it's concise. It gets to the point. It communicates clearly and efficiently. And so the most important skill that's needed for one to write essays well is the ability to communicate on a subject in as efficient a manner as possible. That's really what good essay writing comes down to. The challenge, however, for the writer of the essay is that this is a difficult process. The writer has to undertake the work that's needed to answer the question or solve the problem or explain whatever it is that is unclear. The writer has to work out that solution. That's the challenging part. That's the part that most students, most would-be writers don't want to do. And because they don't do that, it's almost impossible for them to write anything helpful. It's impossible for them to write anything clear. It's impossible for them to write anything that's reasonable or persuasive or helpful, and therefore they struggle to write essays. Now, one thing you'll notice is that I post walk talks day by day, and I often get criticized for my walk talks because people will comment and say, "Why'd you take an hour and 15 minutes to say something you could have said in 10 minutes? But the question is, what is it that I could have said in 10 minutes? And the person will say something like, "Oh, well, you make a really great point about this, or you explained this really well, but I don't understand why you need to make an hour and 10-minute long talk for this, this nugget that's buried in the talk, or this final result of this talk, when you could have said that in 10 minutes. And what they don't understand is that this talk is the means by which that nugget is produced. This is the method. That quality result, that valuable message, which may only take 5 minutes to communicate by itself, is developed through the long form meditation. That's the whole purpose of these walk talks. These are not scripted. These are not planned. I simply take up a topic and talk my way through it. By the time I'm done, if I have an hour-long talk, I can take the text, the transcription of that talk, and it usually turns out to be 10,000 words or more. A huge document. And this is really the key to essay writing. Now, it doesn't need to be done in the form of a talk, and most of the time when I have an actual essay to write, I don't do it in the form of a talk. But what I'll do is I'll simply take up the question or the problem or the text that needs to be expounded, and I will simply start writing about it. I'll simply start writing. And I'll write and I'll write and I'll write and I'll explore every different option and I'll look things up and I'll consult sources and I'll pull quotes and I'll bring all of these things together and make sure that I feel like I've looked at the issue or addressed the question or explained every aspect of the text from every possible angle. And by the time I'm done, I'll have a document that's 3 or 4 times the length that the essay is supposed to be. But over the course of that long composition, I'll have solved the problem. I'll have answered the question. I'll have explained what was unclear. I'll have accomplished the ultimate goal. I'll have the treasure, as it were. And once I reach that point, I then go about condensing and clarifying and organizing and polishing the final essay, which is simply a condensation of everything that was worked out through that long composition. And so I'll take a composition that may be 9 or 10 or 15 pages long, and I'll begin asking myself, what's essential here? What really is essential to this essay, and what is either repetitive or unnecessary or corollary that I can remove? And I'll just begin pruning and pruning and pruning and cleaning and polishing until I have that long-form composition compressed into the essay within whatever the suggested word limit or length was. And by the time I get to that point, I've got a very clear, very concise, very efficient, well-ordered essay. It's very rich. It's very helpful. It's very easy to read. Very well organized, because the whole entire discussion was worked out first and then brought into the most concise possible form. Now, the reason why most people are not good at writing essays is because they don't want to do the work of actually solving the problems, as I said before. They don't want to do the long composition. If they're told they have to write a 500-word short theme, they start writing and they're looking at the word count as they write. They're trying to complete an essay with a certain word count rather than actually solve the problem posed by the essay topic. And so what they end up with is a 500-word, disorganized, unhelpful, useless paper. Maybe they stick some quotations in to try to make it look substantial, or to try to make it look like they gave it some thought, but they don't actually answer the question or solve the problem, because it takes much more to do so. But that's the real challenge of writing a great essay. It's actually fulfilling the objective of the writing assignment. And the first step of that process is working out the solution, which requires a long investigation or long meditation or long composition or long discussion that continues and continues and continues until the problem is actually solved. Once the problem is solved, the goal is fulfilled, and then the challenge is simply to condense and present that answer in the most concise or the most efficient form possible, or whatever the actual assignment, if this is a school essay, whatever the assignment requires. But that's the way to write excellent essays. I do these walk talks as part of my study, thinking, writing process. This is going to be a short talk, but normally I'll set out on my scheduled walk, usually around 3 or 4 o'clock, and I'll have a topic in mind that I'd like to work through, and I'll simply start talking about it, and I'll think about the question or the problem as I get started, and I'll just sort of go where the meditation requires me to go, talk through all the different points that come up along the way, and eventually at some point I'll begin to get to what I can feel is the crux of the issue, and by the time I'm done, I'll have found it. And that long form, that long discussion, is the means by which the solution is obtained. And then if I want to, I can take that long composition. I don't even need to write it, because now what I can do is I can take the transcript and just run it through ChatGPT and say, hey, ChatGPT, take this talk of mine and summarize it with a 500-word article, and I'll take that and post it on the website. It's the product of that long talk. I wouldn't recommend using ChatGPT for a school essay or anything like that, but the process is the same. First, the long composition is required, through which we work out the solution. And then once that solution is obtained, the student uses all of his knowledge of grammar and reasoning and rhetoric, style and usage, to work that long composition down into the clearest, most concise, most efficient essay possible. And when someone reads that essay and finds so much helpful information, so well organized, so concisely stated, and presented in such a simple essay to read, the reaction will be, wow, that's actually really helpful. And that's how you write a good essay. I hope that's helpful.